marriage, and we're going to be talking about the family, uh, talking about success that will come through two people working together or a family unit working together, extended family, not only husband and wife, but also the extended family and the importance of that. We're going to be talking about raising children and passing our values, our sense of right and wrong onto the next generation, and not allowing other people to do that.
There's too much teachings today that are taking us in this wrong direction. And I think that me being in different countries and seeing even all over the world, how do we make it? But on the other hand, even with the disease now, I mean, it's to the place where I got a good friend that's been to India. He's got a soup thing that he deals with the poor in North Dakota, Indian reservation food. He's in the hospital right now.
Keep talking. I just want to
And
check something.
we need to support people like that because that's what keeps gathering people together. And I know when I first met him, I asked him one time to help me take some furniture down to Indian reservation in South Dakota. And he says, I'll go one time. But he spent 2-3 years doing that. This is kind of the values we need to be doing and promoting so we can accomplish something in a lifetime. The game of life is the best thing that you can do. You can play all kinds of games on your cell phone or even on your computer, but does it accomplish anything? But the game of life is what's going to happen in your lifetime. Can you leave a legacy behind that you have accomplished something, and that the next generation and your grandchildren and great-grandchildren can have a better life? So it all starts in the marriage portion, and I think I'll let Jerry probably pick that up again because he's had more experience in that area. And where does the dysfunction happen? I see it even because I was a marriage counselor for a few years, and is when the man, he's out fishing, he's out hunting, and he's never connected, and he needs to be connected. He needs to have a date night. He needs to be able to communicate with his wife, and then as soon as children come in, there's a worse separation.
Yes.
So how do we address all them issues? So I'm going to let you.
Well, okay. So my wife and I are about to experience 38 years of marriage, and it's been a fantastic ride. I certainly will. If I had to do it all over again, I'd do it over again with her. I mean, so we really rejoice in that. But if we're going to raise successful communities, we need to have environments that are conducive to that. And part of building wealth, part of creating a productive society is two people working together, not working against each other, right? Not experience the death of, you look at marriages and you think about when you have divorces and so forth, it's really a death, because you have something that people come together, they're unified, there's really life that springs from that. But then when they're separated, there is a death, right? But there is nothing, the ideal environment for success in communities are two people working together, two people loving each other, two people creating a safe environment for kids to come into, and raising them together, speaking into their lives, investing into their future. These days we have, here in America, we have a lot of controversy over what the schools are teaching and how far the schools are going to teach, what they think that they should be teaching.
Yeah. Should be teaching history because we went through that.
They should be teaching history, math, science, English, and other and foreign languages, computers, and all the tech stuff. But the arguments aren't teaching what type of math we're going to teach them. The arguments aren't what type of languages we're going to expose them to. The arguments are we going to teach them about sexuality? Right? And are we going to teach them about an alternative way of life? I'm not trying to get into that, but the thing is that we are leaving the education of our kids to strangers that we don't even know,
And they're like,
who are espousing a lifestyle that is foreign to many of us, right? And then we are expecting to have a successful family. Well, we can't. The parents have to invest. We as parents, we as grandparents, I'm a grandparent as well too. So we as grandparents and parents have to invest. We as an extended family, we have to be involved in the lives of the next generation, the younger kids, whether they're our own kids, whether they're our grandkids, whether they're even the extended family. We need to be involved, because if society is going to be productive, if we need to pass our values on to them. We need to pass our trades on to them. The things that we've learned to do, the skill sets that we have. We need to get them interested in these things and say, well, hey, listen, this has worked for me. I've been successful in this. Well, maybe this is something that can work for you. Maybe if the kid might not be suited to it, that's fine, but at least you've exposed them to something that can help them, that was beneficial to you. And if enough family members do that, and if enough loved ones or people in your community invest in them, then what will happen is that maybe they'll find the right thing that works for them.
myself, I was 3 years old. My grandfather bought me a little, it was about 3 inches long, mouth organ.
Mm-hmm.
But it took me from that to a guitar. It took me to a bigger mouth organ, a double stack. See, even Mayo Clinic right now is saying from birth until 12, when their kids are learning languages, and even before they're born. I mean, I'm going to say something. When a deer is born, how does he know fear?
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as the lion comes, that deer is running. The babies do the same thing, and I've seen mothers just sit, even before the baby is born, put their hands on their tummy and talk to their baby. Mm-hmm. And it's surprising that some geniuses come out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a connection, there's a reflection. And we miss that. From birth until 12, if you don't feed the right kind of information, even when they're learning the language, sometimes they don't understand. You might be doing something in the kitchen and you're explaining it to the child, and he hears the words, but he don't quite understand what he's supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
But when he gets to be 18, he says, my mom told me that, and I can do it now.
Yes, there are many
See,
things that.
this is what we're missing.
Mm-hmm.
And even in school, who's going to take over your child when you release them to another system? And when I'm not coming against or judging anybody, but there's a lot of good teachers that have.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But on the other hand, there's some that are teaching values that are way off the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think that what's happening here in the world, or even in America, who's out there in the streets burning down buildings and doing all these things, I really don't blame them kids. I blame the parents or whoever brought them up. Because what were they listening to? Why is that anger there? Why are they trying to they're saying we need to have jobs, but they're burning down the building. And the job is there. See, it don't really make any sense. And this is why I believe that we need to do these teachings to open the eyes. I got a grandson that's 42 years old, and he's confused. But I look at his past, and it's because of the circumstance that happened. And when you do marriage counseling, it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime there's a divorce, there's anger because the father's gone or even the mother's gone.
Right. There's that guilt factor that comes in too, because the kids always, after counseling people for many years, I will tell you, the kids always feel that it's their fault that their parents got divorced. And that could be kids at a very young age. Mm-hmm. It could be kids, we're calling them kids, but because they're the kids of their parents. But they could be in their 20s, even in their 30s. And sometimes they say, well, is it something that we did, Dad, Mom? Are we the cause of it? And it's amazing how things how people believe things and pick things up. And really we need to just invest in them. The more time we spend with our kids and with the next generation, explaining to them life, the issues of life, they have to learn it. They will learn it from someone. And if it's worked, if life has worked well for us, right? If the values that we hold have worked and we are successful in what we do, then they need to hear it from us. The
Yeah.
generation needs to hear it from us.
Even if you sit down with a husband and wife and they're at odds, to me, when there's a marriage, and before the marriage, it's me or I. And anytime you say that, then there's a drift that's happening already. Because when you get married, you take the M and you tip it over and you got a W. We have to accomplish all this. And then when the kids start coming into play, money is one of the big factors in marriage. And you can keep naming a whole bunch of things, but if the husband and wife have a date night to sit down and resolve what's happening in their marriage,
Yeah, yeah.
and not always looking at the other person, if it's the wife or it's the man, to be able to see, okay, I see some faults in her, but that don't matter. We talk about it, we resolve it, and then go ahead. But anytime there's something starts to happen and one of them says me, then there's a separation happening already.
Yeah, well, you talked about date night. You mentioned that quite often, and the date night is important. If you aren't able to do everything together, like my wife and I, we do everything together. There's nothing that I do that's without her, other than going into the office. But as soon as we're out, I mean, it's like even like we're here today. She'll be here in a few minutes. On the way home, we came here in two different cars. On the way home, we're gonna be talking on the phone.
Yeah.
It always works that way. On the way into the office, we're talking on the phone. And she's in the car behind me, but we're talking on the phone and we're communicating, and that is exactly a good formula. You don't become strangers because she becomes your best friend. If your spouse becomes your best friend, your person that you can talk to, your life's partner, and that's just not only in raising kids, but it's in doing life. And I think that's where a lot of marriages fails, that we never establish that we are in this together in every single area. So we're always together. I mean, I can tell you that from the time that we wake up, with the exception of just the time that we go into the office, but I'm actually in the office, and even then we would call each other periodically, say, hey, how are you doing? How's everything working out? What are the issues? So these are things that, and the kids see this, and they say, wait a minute, this is what a relationship is supposed to look like. This is what a good, healthy relationship is supposed to look like. So when we're training the kids now, and the other issue that comes in is that we all have, we have kids. That kids will always push the envelope to try to get their way. When they see a tight family unit, husband and wife team, when they see a tight partnership, they will recognize that, well, I can't push the envelope because if I come to him and ask him for something, he's going to go and discuss it with her first, right? They're going to come in agreement and get back to us, right? Then they can't game you. They can't come and say, well, dad said or mom said, to get their own way. Meanwhile, mom didn't really say that, or mom and dad aren't in agreement to start with, right? But when they come to one, if we establish that, okay, mom and I are going to talk this through, and we'll get right back to you. I mean, that is a when they see that, they say, wow, okay, I see what a good marriage looks like. We've modeled this for them.
I'm going to say something. I had an uncle and aunt, and they had 4 kids. And one summer, she was having a baby, and they asked me to come and be with the other kids, the older ones, and help take care of the baby. And when I was there, the baby started to cry, and she was trying to put him to bed. And this is a good experience. The one word that kids have to learn just when they come to the hospital is the word no. And so she says, I says, can I pick the baby up? He's crying. She says, no. I put on a clean diaper, I fed him, I patted him, and he's supposed to go to bed, and he's going to learn the word no. We miss that. Because it's that early age again that we miss, that the child, even coming home from the hospital, can be spoiled because the nurses are holding it. And as soon as he starts to cry, it gets picked
Someone
up.
grabs the baby. Yeah, yeah.
But I appreciate that Mayo Clinic is doing some of these studies that help us in life. Even the food that we eat, everything that we create is what we are.
Yes,
And
yeah,
if we
absolutely.
keep adding all the chemicals to preserve food, then we wonder, why are we sick? Why is this on there? Like MSG, for example, I'm allergic to it. It's a food tenderizer. They call it a food enhancer. It's supposed to give it bitter taste. Well, if I want to eat celery, I want to eat celery. And it tastes of celery. Why
Yeah.
are you trying to change
The taste
the
of it.
food chain? But see, this is what's happening in the world because sometimes it's all about money.
Well, of course.
And if we don't take care of, even when we're buying groceries for our children and buying for the family, what are we creating in the future? All of a sudden, something happens, and even in my life, I lost my mother when I was 7.
Wow.
And I had
Sorry to hear that.
6 brothers and sisters. They were older than I was 7 years old. I couldn't carry the milk out after I got done separating. So my mother would come into the living room and they were playing games. Who's going to go out and feed the calves? And she said it 4 or 5 times. My dad sat there, didn't say nothing. See, this is dysfunction in family. So my mother grabbed her coat, put on her overshoes. It was snowing outside. It was freezing. She grabbed 2 buckets, and 10 minutes later, she's coming in here. She stepped on a piece of wood, went through her foot. A blizzard happened, and couldn't get her to the doctor because by horseback only, or wagon. It was in the 40s. But now, the dysfunction happened because the brothers know, and my sisters were older, were able to do what mom was saying. All of them ended up to be alcoholic because they couldn't deal with what they did to mom.
With the guilt.
Yeah, see, this
Yeah.
dysfunction happens.
Yeah, yeah.
But how many
Yeah.
divorce and everything else that happens in families, or even in relationships in our jobs, and even relationships with business? The best thing that you can have is employees that appreciate you because you treat them right. So life just keeps on tumbling.
Wow. You know, it's amazing because we have created an environment where we don't want our kids to have any hardship, right? We want to make it better for them. We want to give our kids all the stuff that we didn't have. This is the mindset, right? But really, we're happy because we went through the hardship. We're functional because we went through
It's a training.
that we were trained by the difficulty.
Yeah.
We were exercised by the difficulty. So it was good for us, but somehow we have this, and it is a warped cultural ideal that my kid will grow up and they will never experience any difficulty. Meanwhile, it is that very difficulty, those very struggles, those learning processes that has formed us and shaped us and made us capable. So we have to have, we really have to change that mindset. We really need to begin to focus and say, well, listen, it's okay for the kid not to have everything they want. Maybe if they want it, maybe we have to help them and teach them, why don't you go and work for it? Why don't you go and do something? Go through a little hardship. Yes, the other kids might laugh at them. But in the end, when our kids are successful because they've been trained by difficulty, they've been trained by work, they've been trained by a little struggle, they will not be as broken as the other kids who had lived in the lap of luxury. They wouldn't grow up expecting someone to give them something when they hit the workforce, but they'll recognize that, okay, I need to work for this. And you know what? You know, you grew up on a farm. I grew up on a plantation for a time of my life. It wasn't pleasant. There were times that you got up. I don't want to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and water and give the cat the animal. Excuse me, the animals water. I don't want to get up and clean the pig pen or the chicken coop, or I don't want to come home from school in the middle of the day and do it all over again, and then maybe have to do it at night before we go to sleep again. But you know what? It taught us something, that hard work pays off, right? And it created a work ethic in us that I'm not offended or challenged by having to work. In fact, I like work. What do you think about that?
I even, if you don't clean the chicken coop, you have no eggs, so you don't have no breakfast.
That's
See, they learn because the circumstances,
Mhm.
and every time there is a trial, I've gone, but I think that even me teaching right now is because I have gone through trials.
Yes.
I've seen victory,
yes.
and I see that I need to instill it into these other countries. Why are India, for example, and I'm not judging, I'm just saying, there's always a shortage of food. Like now they're going through the epidemic. But on the other hand, you look in their backyard and it's a trash can. And not all of them, they could be growing a garden.
Yeah.
If they would look, and even when they do have rain, monsoons or whatever happens, if there was a place that you could retain it. In my house right now, I've grown trees that are 3 and 4 years old that are 40 feet tall.
Wow.
All the water that comes off my roof is piped into 55-gallon barrels, and when it doesn't rain, I turn a few valves, and my trees are getting watered.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even when I take it, there's the learning trait here too. Trees have a taproot, so if you're watering the grass, the root's going to be just underneath the grass. But if you take a piece of pipe and take your hose and hook it to it, and turn that water on, and you push it into the ground, and you make the tree will follow that path of water.
Yes, it will.
When he breaks into the water table,
And it'd be a
that
strong
shoots
tree.
up.
Yes,
Here in
yes.
Florida, the water is only 4 to 5 feet down.
Yeah, it's not that far.
So you can take a pipe and stick it down that far, and that tree gets down there. I've got some elms that are all 40 feet tall.
Wow.
We had some pines that in 3 years were 60, 70 feet tall.
Wow. That's
But
amazing.
see,
Yeah.
it's a learning thing. And we learn from each other. We learn from our brothers and sisters. We learn from our parents. We learn from the system. We learn even when we go out to buy groceries or whatever we do. When you're talking to people, and we need to be. I say that love is a word. You can keep saying it over and over and over, but love has to be an action. So when you're going out, even the cashier that's checking you out for groceries, thank you for doing your service.
Yes.
It makes a difference because the next time you come in, if there's something wrong or whatever, she's going to help you do it.
Be kinder and helpful.
And
Yeah.
if you're in business, it's the same thing. If you treat your employees right, I had apprentices. I was an electrician as a trade. And when they graduated to be a journeyman, they were thanking me. Because there was a lot of journeymen that were a gopher. Go get this, go get that, but never learned anything. I went and got stuff and gave it to them and told them how to do it. And 4 years later, they were good journeymen.
Yeah. That's good. That's good.
Even in that, you can see that no matter what you do, you're doing to each other.
Yes.
Even
Yeah.
at the job site. And I was college just saying today that, oh, you got to have a business degree or you got to do this. Hey, a manager from a business degree, he hardly makes $15 or $18. But I retired from electrical at $27. And I didn't have to pay for college. I had to learn it, and I got less pay, but I was getting paid to learn.
Right. Yeah.
And this is what I'm trying to instill into the world, into the next generation. Focus on what the need is.
Yeah.
If it's computers, if
There you
it's
go.
factories that need to be built. Exporting nation is a wealthy nation.
That's right.
Importing is not.
People will pay you if you satisfy a need.
Yes.
Right? If you want to be successful, this is just a general thing that I need to say. If you want to be successful, identify what the need is and meet the need, and that's how success comes.
Amen.
Right?
Amen.
But you said something earlier that really was very telling, and it brought a thought back in my mind. So I grew up in a country that didn't have a welfare system or any sort of provision like that. And I remember, so we own the plantation, we have all these people that work for us and so forth. And I remember the value of a pack of seeds. You know, the interesting thing is that you had all the people that worked for you, and they made a small wage, nothing extravagant or anything. Some of them didn't have fridges in the home. You know, they had the old dry ice boxes and stuff like that. Yeah, or they would salt the whatever they had, salt it to preserve it and put it in a box, that stuff like that. Some of them didn't have electricity. You know, they didn't have TV, and this is where many people in the world are today. They don't have these luxuries. But you know what I remember distinctly is that everyone had a garden patch in their backyard. And they would and they had some had potatoes, and not everyone had potatoes.
Yep.
It was interesting because they say, "Well, what are you growing? What are you growing? What are you growing?" Right? But everyone, they grew their own stuff, and then when the harvest came, they would share amongst themselves. If they were killing an animal, you know, a pig or something like that, or a goat for meat, they would then share among themselves and trade. Well, they got some potatoes. I got some lettuce. I got some cucumber. I got some fruit that came off the tree, and they never went hungry. And they were able to stay in their homes, and it was their homes. It wasn't necessarily homes that they might not own the land the home is on, but the home that they built, you know, very modest, small. I mean, the home, Gene, I'm not exaggerating. The home was smaller than half this stage. And in that thing, which is only less than 20 feet, well, you know, you've seen them overseas, right? And in that was the bedroom, the kitchen, the bathroom, you know, and the place where the family met. Well, you know, this is the reality of many people. But, you know, they all had something. They were not impoverished. They weren't going hungry. They had what they needed because as a community, right, they said, well, okay, there's no one to provide for us. We are going to provide for ourselves. And a pack of seeds doesn't cost a whole bunch of money, right? You can buy a pack of seeds very inexpensively, right? And what they did is they recognized the value of a pack of seeds and the harvest that will come, and living together and working together as a community. That's something that even to this day I still admire it. I don't see it here today in this country. I see everyone waiting for a handout. Everyone wants to have the best of everything, and they want the handout to help them to survive. It's a contradiction. That's because we raised them. We raised a generation that says, no hardship for me, no difficulty for me, right? We're going to make it so easy that everything's going to be given to me. So when we grow up, we still carry that into adulthood, right? And that's where the dysfunction comes from. That's where the dissatisfaction comes from. You know, where everyone is now on some sort of medication because life is the worst. You know, they can't function in society. Why? Because you have wrong expectations. We have to get away from this idea of saying that our kids, the next generation, will not experience hardship. Let them experience some hardship. Teach them through it, work with them, help them to understand the value of the stress, the difficulty. Help them understand that you, even as an adult, that you might not have the same hardships that they have, but we went through these things, we experienced these things, and this is what we learn from it. And this is how you harness that to make it beneficial for all.
I think the women, India really spoke to me when this, just a couple months ago. They wanted to make a ploy that they want change and they want to be part of it. And, you know, it goes back to marriage again. I mean, it's their way of life. On the other hand, when they stood shoulder to shoulder on the highway, 182 miles, can you imagine?
Yeah.
But you go in there and you talk to any one of them women, and they said, I had pain when I had this child. I want that child to have a better life.
Yes.
And the only way you can get a better life is because you're teaching, you're training. You start out even when they're babies. And we're missing a curve there because both parents are working and somebody else taking a daycare is taking care of your kids. If you haven't picked the right person to be that, you're missing it. And then you wonder, well, how come you got a rebellious teenager?
Yeah.
and if you see it in America.
Oh yeah.
There's so many kids, all they want to do because it was the computer or the TV that was teaching kids in the last 2 generations.
And setting the expectations of life.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
And they're
yes.
sitting and all they want to do is play games.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't even want to listen to you teaching them because, like you said earlier, they want everything given to them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden they're 40 years old and they haven't got any value.
That's right.
Because they never were taught, they never took time out to be able to sit down and learn and educate themselves.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to give tablets away. I just talked to a person I know in India, and I explained to him where we're headed for, how these teachings can be brought into their homes or brought into their villages. We got 90 villages that want tablets or computers.
Wow.
We got 50,000 kids, and governor wants us to teach them value. And I don't care if somebody, one of the kids says, I love music, buy him a guitar or buy him a little mouth organ like my grandfather did for me. It opens that window that he's going to excel into because that's what he likes. But how many times are we trying to shape kids and saying, you're going to follow my footsteps? I go into business, you're going to take the business over when you get to be 21 years old. That's not the way to raise a family. One of them might.
Yeah, but they need to work their way in.
Unless you're training him
Struggle
for that,
through-
he
yeah,
likes
you have to
what
train
he's
them.
doing,
And, yeah.
then he's going to have a good life. But if he has resistance, come on, where's he headed to?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
But anyway, I'm explaining that we are at that stage right now where soliciting money to buy tablets, buy cell phones for India, Africa, and even the governments are coming into play because the schools are failing and they can't keep the building up, they can't keep up keep it operating. South Africa, we have one university that's willing to give us all the buildings. And all we have to do is start teaching, but we have to have teacher salaries, you have to have supplies to be able to make that happen. So I'm trying to say, even when I was online a couple of years ago, I'm talking about the same thing I'm doing right now. I had 1 million teachers in America say, we want to be part of this. When we're teaching our kids in our classrooms, all we need is a computer sitting next to us, the connections. We have the connections now. At that time, we had Skype. It was the only thing we had. But you got WhatsApp, you got all these different,
Right there.
and Zoom, you could even be live. WhatsApp can be live. I wanted to start teaching leadership in different countries, and I want English speaking because my motto is we teach English at 3 because everything on the computer, when you want to Google it, is in English. So why we have to stick with what we got. But on the other hand, English at 3 years old, cell phones at 8 years old, how to work them, computers at 12, 13, 14 years old, they're the greatest learning ages.
Yes.
But then when you get them up to 16 years old, job skills.
Yeah, job skills.
If you
Good.
want to go into
Good.
computer, we'll keep on teaching you computer. If you want to go in and start a business, there's going to be help that can materialize that. But even it's like in Kenya now, a lady I met 20 years ago, and she emailed me on Facebook the other day, and I said, okay, I prayed about it, and I said, yeah, I can afford $400. I gave her $400, and it multiplied it because of the money exchange to $16,000. And she emailed me this morning, and she wants my family, my grandkids, my great-grandkids, to be part of some of the kids that she has. So when we communicate, even kids can be teaching kids.
Yes.
Because there's a relationship.
Yeah.
You can have 1 million friends on Facebook, but if you got 60 or 70 friends that you're helping to be educated so they can accomplish values and have a better life, that's where we need to be.
Yes. Excellent. Wow. Well, I see our time is up, and this has been a good discussion. So
Yes.
until next time, Bye-bye.
We thank you for
Excellent.
what you're doing.
Excellent.
It is interesting.